And welcome to the super fun, awesome, happy time pedal show. My name's Gabor.
Hey, welcome along. I'm Alex, and we're going to check out some Eurorack delay action today.
Yes, Eurorack. So we are kind of silly, and we're doing this thing where we kind of trying to combine Eurorack with the world of guitar.
This thing.
And this, yeah, we're going to look at this delay today. So, you know, just to start off the whole crazy journey with and stuff.
The nostalgia. So before we get into the setup and all that kind of stuff, if you could hit like and subscribe on the video, ding the bell when and we'll notify you when there's new videos up, especially about all this new world of Eurorack we're getting into.
Yes,
and
yes.
Also questions, questions below.
Yes, please leave some comments. And this is going to be a whole series. So you can't really see it, but this is in a there'll be photos and stuff. There's this is a RackBrute 6U, which was sent to us by the awesome people at Arturia. And there's a whole bunch of modules in there, and we're sort of slowly going to go through them one by one, and then we're going to start combining modules and see what we can do with it, and kind of see how far we can take it, and using MIDI conversion and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, I mean, it's going to be a massive undertaking, and there's heaps more modules coming as well. So yeah, please, if you are interested in this, please make sure to subscribe.
Be cool. So the setup today is the guitars going through. We've got a Strymon guitar to Eurorack converter module.
Yes, the Alcoholics Anonymous one, the AA one.
AA one.
And just want to mention, this is in no way, shape, or form sponsored by Strymon. They don't seem to reply to emails and stuff like that. So I bought this. Yes, just so you know, everything else is given to us, but not the Strymon interface.
So that's how we get guitar signal in and out of the Eurorack world.
So
Okay,
keep going. The rest of the setup, and then we'll talk about that, because that's a whole point as well.
Important. So the rest of it's like the usual guitar rig going into Mostronics amp switcher, the Cheritone OTS MIDI 20 head, a single 12 greenback, an isocab with Lewitt MTP 440 mic.
Lewitt people.
And also the 2 notes torpedo captor X and some stereo R's.
And so video for that.
Basically got the usual
setup.
Guitar tone.
Now, you can sort of just see it. So we've got, this is the cable, this is the guitar goes in here, and then it goes out here into the amp. Now, if I unplug this, let's just start off with this. This is what it sounds like if I unplug it. So there's no signal. So this isn't hardwired in any way, shape, or form. So you've got to go into this is the output out of this module, going back into the input back into this module. So this basically just means cable goes into that, it goes out of that, back into that, and out of that, and now it goes into the amp. So nothing is hooked up at the moment. And so what we should quickly talk about, because this is the first video in a whole Eurorack extravaganza we're doing. Eurorack, for whatever reason, and we're guitar players, we don't know about this stuff, the volume on Eurorack is massively different to anything else, right? So usually there's this thing called instrument level and line level, right? So there's two things which you have usually in PA systems and stuff like that as well. So which is also one of the reasons why you probably use a DI if you use an acoustic guitar, that sort of stuff, right? So it's different volumes, right? Eurorack is way louder than all of that. Yeah. Now, if you were to plug your guitar straight with a cable, right, a converter cable that has a guitar jack on one side and one of those little jacks on the other side, if you plug your guitar straight into it, unless it's a module that has guitar line or guitar input levels, like this delay actually does, but that's a different story. Normal modular system modules, normal Eurorack modules, that's the word I was looking for, have Eurorack input volumes. So if you were to plug your guitar into it, it would be extremely quiet. You wouldn't be able to hear anything. Now, vice versa, if you just go straight out of an output into your guitar amp, what you would do is you would massively overdrive the input of your guitar. So the output volume is so loud that it's like having 3 boosts on full, going into your amp.
Yeah.
So what Strymon does, and I think Dopfer does one as well.
Yeah.
There's a few different ones, but basically it drops, it even says it on here, it drops the signal by minus 18 decibel, which is a lot. 18 decibel is quite a lot. So basically as you plug your guitar into here, it raises the volume by 18 decibel, and then coming out to your amp, it drops the volume by 18 decibels. So it makes it safe to run that into your guitar amp and stuff. So that's just to start everything off with. Okay, to the module. So I should say a big thank you to the awesome people at Dreadbox for sending this out to us. They sent the pedals out to us as well. You can watch one of the pedal videos there. The pedals also have little pluggabilities. Pluggabilities. So we're going to get into that as well. But for now, okay, so let's just start off with this. So what we're doing is now, so the guitar goes into here. We're going out of this with this orange cable, right? That basically now is your guitar input, right? So with this, we're going to go into, let's go into that one up the top here, right? Because that's got a volume control as well.
Cool.
Now, what we got to do now is go out of that module. It's basically a plug in your pedal in, right? The input and the output. So we're just doing that right now. So this is now the master output, and that master output now goes into here. So now, if I turn the mix down, it should kind of still sound exactly the same. Now, that volume is a lot higher, so we've got to actually turn the volume down. So that's one of the things I was talking about. What you can also do in this case, this has got a thing called 10 pp in. That's just a normal modular input, so this would now be a normalized volume, basically. So if we do that now. So for the time being, let's just plug into that. You can plug into here where you have a separate volume as well. The volume is more geared towards whether you plug a keyboard into it, for example, or if you plug a guitar into it, or other things into it. You know, it's just it gives you possibilities. Okay, so let's look at the knobbies and sliders on here now. So basically, you've got 4 sliders, and you have 4 knobs, right? Let's ignore all the inputs and stuff for now, right? They're all plugs. Basically, we're going into the unit, out of the unit. We have a time control, which controls the delay time. We have a mix control that goes from almost all dry. There's always a little bit of wet in there to full wet. And then we have the feedback control. Now, we have 2 feedback controls because actually this is and I don't know how much you can read it, but there'll be photos and stuff as well. This is a 3-stage delay. So it's like having 3 delays, or I think also if you think of a tape delay, you have 3 different heads. Yeah. But it's actually more like 3 delays, really. And you have these 2 outputs out here. You can output out of previous delays. So this is delay 1, delay 2, and then you have, anyway. So let's just look at it now. So for now, let's keep the 1/3 feedback down. And this is just a full output, master output feedback. So let's have a look at the delay, right?
Let's turn the modulation.
And then we have modulation up here. So we've got rate and depth for modulation,
just to start with,
which is hardwired in here. Here you've got that knob is for the input volume if you use that input volume. And if you were to use CV, which means modulating things, this is actually, you can control how much you let through of the CV as well. So let's get into all that later. So at the moment, we're just looking at the 4 knobs and the 4 sliders and 2 knobs in the middle.
Okay.
So it sounds like this. So it goes to about a second, that delay. And once you get to almost a second, you can kind of hear it too. It gets a bit noisy and there's a bit of grit sort of involved. Because I think you're pushing the delay as far as you can go. But it's quite a pretty sounding delay. It's an analog delay.
Yeah, it's very clean and...
Very clean and very pretty delay. Mix, you can go all the way up and you have full mix. You can do the cool slidey thing. Now, okay, so feedback. One of the things I actually quite like about this is you can control the feedback quite well. So you can sit on that point of just about no return.
It's pretty cool.
And you can get some pretty cool, just sort of almost droney sounds. So it sort of sits, you can go a little bit further even, and then, you can sort of sit right on the verge of self-oscillation. So now we've got the 1/3 feedback. So that's actually a feedback of an earlier delay stage. So you've got the 3 delay stages. This is the feedback of the first delay stage. Now, to me, it almost has like a triplety kind of vibe, just because it's really fast. So if I turn that up now. So you hear the 1 delays from this. So it's at the bum bum, and then it's almost like a triplet.
Yeah. Futuristic.
So that's that. It gives you, it's like a whole different vibe. Now, if the cool thing is when you start combining the two. Now, the thing is, or the way I kind of understand it is, those two, as you start moving him up, it almost becomes like one slider. So if you have this on almost full, and you move this up that much, it's like moving that one up. See, it goes into self-oscillation very quickly.
Yes.
So it's like you're extending the slider basically. So you've got to be very gentle with this, right? Because it can go crazy fairly quickly. Okay, so let's leave the time somewhere in the middle. Let's put that feedback somewhere up here. So they're sitting right on the verge of self-oscillation, which is actually quite nice. Now, one of the other things you can do is you can, instead of going out of the master out, so the master out has a clean signal, plus it has the delayed signal in it. What you can do is, for example, go out of the first delay stage output. So this one, basically. Now, you don't have any clean signal, and you only have that one particular delay. So you can do that. You can go out of the second delay line as well.
Super lo-fi that way.
It's super lo-fi, yeah. See, the thing you've got to be aware of is the second feedback. That translates to all of them. You only have control over the first one and all of them.
Yep.
I guess they're fairly cheap modules, so you're relatively limited. So, I mean, that's basically that for this. Right, now, the next thing we're going to look at is the modulation. So modulation, basically, and this is, when talking about modular systems and stuff like that, modulation usually means there's some sort of an oscillator involved, right? So an LFO. So you can even see it up the top here. And in guitar pedals, usually you have the same thing. So an LFO is a low-frequency oscillator. It's an oscillator that creates a wave shape, and usually it's below the sound that we can hear. So it's an inaudible sound. It is actually a sound that creates a sound, but it's below what we can hear. But what it does is you use those waveforms, those kind of slow waveforms, to create modulation. Now, so just getting into that with LFO just being a modular thing, right? So these are rate and depth for the modulation. So what they modulate basically is the time, right? So it's kind of hardwired to the time. Now it creates almost vibrato effects, and you can go very far, wacky, very wacky with it. Cool. So again, this is just a straight delay sound. Let's find a nice, pretty delay sound. So now I'll turn up the depth. This is when it gets pretty wild fairly quickly.
Yep.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. You can get some wacky sounds out of it. Now, the thing what you can then do also is that comes later on. You can modulate things even more and get into it. That's the whole point of modular systems. But with this, we're looking at it just as a standalone delay at the moment. Another thing you can do is you can go into this bit where you don't have the dry signal and get into the modulation. So because you're getting rid of a dry signal, it turns into a vibrato, basically.
Yeah, and it's kind of this cool lo-fi smallness.
Yeah, so that's another thing I should also mention. These two outputs are actually, the volume is reduced. So that's a lesser volume that comes out of those than comes out of this one.
There you go.
But I mean, that's basically that. I mean, that's the pedal, that's the module. See, I'm too used to saying pedal. That's a module on its own. Now, the module also, you have these two outputs up the top here, which are actually LFO outputs. So you can use the LFO in here to send information to other modules to then, modulate in sync together. So you can have modulation in here and modulate another, for example, this one, the phaser next to it. You can modulate that in sync together and stuff. So it's pretty wild what you can do with it. Or you can have, through the CV in here, you can have other LFOs coming into this to modulate it for you. So there's tons you can do with it, which we'll all get into in future videos. But that's pretty much that.
Would you like to have a play? I'm just going to lead. And,
okay, yes.
take us out with some weird noises. Some, I mean, pretty lovely soundscapes.
Pretty lovely sounds. Okay, all right. That's unprepared. I haven't prepared anything for this.
For this whole thing.
You have the control now. See how much fun it is? That's why I always do it on that. It's a great sounding delay. I mean, it is a little bit different to a lot of pedal delays.
Yep.
It has its own kind of flavour to it, and I quite like it. Okay, so this is basically that. That's the first look at using Eurorack with guitar, first video. We will combine it with other... It came back. We will combine it with other modules to modulate things and use it to modulate other things. So there'll be more coming. The first bunch of videos are literally just looking at modules by themselves and see what they're doing.
Yeah, like I said, if you can hit like and subscribe, excuse me, on the channel if you want to see more of this stuff.
Yeah,
that'd be fantastic. And comments, questions below. Also below there's links to our Instagram, Facebook, and podcast.
And if you make Eurorack modules and you want to be part of this, shoot us an email. There's a link below. Because we're always looking for, especially Australian makers, or if you know any Australian makers that are interested, let us know. So big thank you once again to the awesome people at Arturia. Without them, we probably wouldn't have even started thinking about this because they supplied us with the case. Big thank you to the awesome people at Dreadbox for sending this out to us. And I should have mentioned that was my Fano on this MG6 that I used. Big thank you to the awesome people at Fano as well. So on that note,
see you soon.
Bye.